This overperforming winter storm is now making its way to the northeast through Appalachia and then into the northeast of the United States, with snowfall totals over 2 to 3 inches in many communities. How much snow for you? I'll give you my predictions and show you the models on that. Plus, I've got details on the Arctic air mass that continues up next. Alright, you're taking a look at your Monday evening radar on screen right now. Freezing right through parts of Louisiana, northern Mississippi, and northern Alabama, but the big totals of snowfall have been moving through Tennessee and on up into the southeastern part of the state, as well as into Appalachia, and that's why we've got winter storm warnings all the way from northern Louisiana through parts of north central Mississippi, northern Alabama, far northwestern Georgia, and then on up through eastern parts of Tennessee, southeastern Kentucky, and then on up into parts of West Virginia and southwestern Virginia. But you can see we've got winter weather advisories all the way on up through New England, and then a new winter storm warning that's been up for Maine. By the way, if you enjoy the rest of this video, please hit that subscribe button for more accurate, easy to understand, and passionate forecasts. Now let's get into the timing. Alright, as of this evening, we've got some pretty hefty snowfall falling just east of Nashville. It's really wrapping up in western Tennessee with this event, but we've gotten some half-foot plus totals in some communities, and you can see that snow now stretching all the way on up towards Washington, D.C. Also monitoring some of this light freezing rain that's falling all the way back through parts of the Houston metro area, stretching through Jackson, Mississippi on up into northern Alabama. Again, you can see some of that light ice accretion. That is certainly possible, a glaze on some roadways there, causing for some slick travel into parts all the way through Louisiana, and then again on up into Mississippi and Alabama. And we will monitor through this evening, say 10, 11 o'clock Central Time tonight, some of these heavier freezing rain pockets, especially through Jackson and Meridian there in Mississippi, and then maybe even pushing on the door of Tuscaloosa as well as Birmingham, Alabama. The main story, though, of course, being snow, and we'll have some heavier pockets on up through West Virginia, northern Virginia, the state of Virginia, I mean, through Maryland, and then on up into southeastern Pennsylvania at this point. A lot of New Jersey also starting to get covered by snow throughout the evening hours, and it looks like it'll continue to pick up as we go 1, 2 a.m. Central Time. Some of the pockets of snow will be really kind of riding on up out of Appalachia, and then we've kind of got a little bit of an offshore system helping to enhance some of that snowfall there in southern New England. So some decent totals really coming on down there, especially initially out of this system through New York City, even into parts of Connecticut. I mean, you can see all the way back down the system, still monitoring that freezing rain line. That will diminish, though, and we won't be looking at too many travel concerns other than that lingering ice on roadways as we go into tomorrow morning. Just nothing imminent falling at that point as you wake up down there over most of the Mid-South, other than some rain through parts of the Southeast. But you can see here, snowfall continuing, but maybe a couple of heavier pockets, one into parts of eastern Pennsylvania and southern New York, the other one on over into just off in the shoreline there of Boston, Massachusetts. If we can get these two snow pockets to kind of converge, we could see the difference be split there in parts of Connecticut and western Massachusetts continue to get some heavier snow. It does look like this system's going to get that warmer air push off the Atlantic, and that could turn the very last few hours of this event into places like New York City, southern Connecticut, even places like Boston on over to some ice, and then maybe even eventually a touch of some rain. You can see those pinks moving through. Even on up towards Albany, wouldn't rule out some sleet getting in the mix, but it does look like from Albany, New York, all the way on up through parts of central Maine, on up to Caribou, Maine, that those zones, that's where the snow is really going to come down pretty heavy and uninterrupted there. Of course, and the temperatures are definitely very cold. The only thing that's causing those icing concerns down there into parts of the coastline of Maine, that is, of course, the warmer pocket that we've got into mid-levels of the atmosphere here. But we've got lake effect snow that's going to kind of wrap around behind this system, and you can see all the lakes there, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, northwestern Gulf of Michigan, and then off of Lake Erie in Ontario. We will continue to see some lake effect snow concerns at the back end of the system. Now here's how much snow we could get throughout the rest of our Monday evening here as I'm filming this. This is the National Weather Service outlook through parts of eastern Tennessee, southeastern Kentucky on up over into the western part of the state of Virginia. Some of these totals nearing 2 to 4 inches. I do think the best chances for maybe a half a foot of snow, and at least, from the remainder of this event, not saying that you haven't gotten a half a foot of snow in these areas already. For the remainder of this event, a half a foot of snow is still possible there in northeastern West Virginia. The potential for 2 to 4 inch totals will continue on up through parts of Maryland, eastern Pennsylvania, as well as northern New Jersey here, as we'll kind of have that heavier pocket of snow move through. But even on down there through parts of central Virginia, this could push all the way into parts of southern Delaware as well. We could at least maybe get an inch of snow in some of those locations. But notice most parts of coastal Virginia through central and coastal North Carolina not really picking up any snow out of this event. And then let's shift things on off towards the northeast and kind of look at the snowfall totals there. You can see again that 2 to 4 inch pocket maybe having to be picked back up. Remember, that's kind of that secondary band through parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, as well as Maine. Maine really racking up there in the northeastern part of the state on some of the heavier totals. Anywhere from maybe 6 to 10 inches there in the northeastern quadrant of Maine. Again, most spots across the northeast, though, the overwhelming majority of communities picking up 2 to 4 inches. And that's what we've got here on my latest product here. This is a little custom graphic I made for everyone with your National Weather Service forecast snowfall that I just showed you there on the left side of your screen, but my city-by-city predictions showing you that Baltimore, the D.C. area, through Philadelphia and Scranton and Pennsylvania, all these areas, maybe 2 to 4 inches of snow. I think that's your best bet. Into New York City and Boston, maybe seeing that mix towards the end will deplete your totals a little bit. I do think you'll get towards the higher end of this 1 to 3 inches that I'm showing you there. Albany, Concord, and New Hampshire, Albany, New York, and Concord, New Hampshire, 2 to 4 inches there. I think Montpelier has 3 to 6 inches coming, and Bangor, Maine, 2 to 4 inches with those heaviest totals just to your north and east. But keep in mind, this is not, like a guarantee. That's just my projected totals. And of course, let me know in another video how that plays out for you if you live in the northeast. But anyway, your ice through Wednesday afternoon, according to HRRR model, still got 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of some ice through parts of north central Mississippi into Alabama. But notice that glaze encompassing a lot of the mid-south and the lower Mississippi Valley. That's telling you that the travel will be quite slick on your Tuesday morning. Now, your key messages for this mid-January Arctic blast: sub-zero wind chills will continue to affect much of the Rockies, Great Plains, and the Midwest into Tuesday, with wind chills below -30 extending as far south as the Central Plains and mid-Mississippi Valley. These wind chills could cause frostbite on exposed skin in a few minutes and hypothermia shortly thereafter, so avoid those activities and the outdoor ones if possible. If you must be outside, wear those appropriate layers. And cover that exposed skin, but keep pets indoors. Have a cold survival kit if you must travel. You can see that map. It will get down into the negative wind chills all the way as far south as Dallas through parts of the Ohio Valley. It is going to be a very cold morning Tuesday morning, and we've got more reinforcing cold air that's going to move in later this week. Let's time all that cold air out right here with the European model and those future wind chills. So here we go, skipping tomorrow morning because we just looked at those wind chills. Into our Wednesday morning here, you can see -10, -20, even near -30 here over parts of the upper Midwest, but really just below zero for wind chills all the way down into parts of the southern Ohio Valley. Yes, Nashville, that includes you, back through northern Mississippi in the Tupelo region, not Mississippi. But you can see here as we make our way through Wednesday afternoon, not recovering much, staying below zero for wind chills up there through parts of Minnesota, the Dakotas, as well as Wisconsin. But you can see we continue to cool down into our Thursday morning. Kind of stays a little bit further north Thursday morning, but here's that secondary blast of that colder air that's going to move in. I've been talking about this in the last several videos. You can see -15, -25, -30 for those wind chills here over the north central plains. We get a little bit of a break from the worst of it here in the southeastern this point, but notice that starts to sink on down in that direction to our Saturday morning. Again, Iowa going to be a big bullseye for some cold -30 to -40 degree wind chill readings. This second Arctic blast also looking like it's going to encompass a good bit of the northeastern United States with those cold temperatures through parts of upstate New York, through parts of north central Maine. It's going to be very cold, but even down into central Florida, we could see it get below freezing in the wind chill department as we go into our Sunday morning. And look at how cold it is there over the entire southeast out of the second Arctic blast as well. Even down towards the North Carolina coast, it might get quite cold with maybe wind chills below 10 possible. But again, it looks like these colder wind chills will linger into our Monday morning over parts of the northeastern United States. This is into January 22nd. Then we will get a rebound where mornings are going to stay closer to freezing in the wind chill department over a lot of the country. That's as ridging's going to develop, and I'll show you that in a minute. Let's talk about your snowfall chances that we could have later this week. First of all, Wednesday going into our early Thursday here over the Cascades and the Rockies, it's looking like we'll get some pretty good accumulation, especially over the Cascades of Washington and Oregon. Notice we've also got that lake effect snowfall still continuing there over many of the Great Lakes. It does look like that system moving out of the Pacific Northwest will begin to make its way on over and drift into parts of the north central plains through Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, and down on over into the Ohio Valley as a low pressure will probably try to get going somewhere around Missouri and Arkansas and then head towards the mid-Atlantic shores. This is not going to be a strong one. The phasing of the jet streams is not here to make this a very strong system. It does not look like, but nonetheless, we could get some light accumulation again through those areas I just mentioned, as well as in this zone I'm circling over here through parts of the northern Ohio Valley, the northern mid-Atlantic, and then on over through southern New England. including places like New York City for a quick accumulation of a few inches as well. That system moves offshore, and then once that occurs, it does look like we're going to be kind of entering a lull across the country in the way of snowfall, that likely occurring as a high-pressure ridge, the one that I talked about just a minute ago, trying to get going over the north-central U.S. Only snow at this point from the ensembles. Again, this is a collection, a mix of models, not saying this is a guarantee, but it is a pretty good thing to look at, looking like it's going to be towards the west coast in the Rockies at that point. And here's why: warmer than average air. Look at this. We were looking at blues all across the map for the 6 to 10 day outlook recently. Once we get about 7 days out, that's when the cold air pretty much finishes up in the southeast and eastern coast, and we're going to see warm air build back up as much as 20-30 degrees above normal, looking to be possible over the upper Midwest by the time we're making our way towards the back half of the month. And as we look at that 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, so again, here we go, we're heading on out towards the 21st through the 25th, and you can see precipitation really looking to pick up along the west coast and through the southern quarter of the United States, with the only dry areas potentially staying on up there in the Dakotas, and then as well through the Northeast. So it's really looking at this point like kind of getting a little bit wet across the country, but not necessarily with as much wintry weather as we head towards that time frame. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful or entertaining, please hit that subscribe button. That's it for this video. I'll catch you in the next one or the next stream. That's it for this.